Welcome back to Hi Fam. I am Avital and I'm here to help you to build a strong family culture. And today I'm going to share why I'm actually happy when bad things happen to my children. I know that sounds like I'm such a monster, but I'm going to explain exactly what I mean and why I think we can all shift the conversation a little bit when it comes to frustrations, disappointments, letdowns, rejections, pain, even that our children experience. So if you are raising kids, if you are looking to create a strong family culture, a culture where you have togetherness, where you create a lot of meaning, where you feel empowered as a parent to run your home and really, project onto the future your values and your vision, or that just sounds good to you, then you are in the right place. And I would love for you to please hit that subscribe button. That really helps this channel to grow and this message to get out there. And what would also be amazing is if you could share it with a friend and hit the like button and all the things you know how to do. By the way, these episodes also drop over on my podcast, Hi Fam, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get them. So feel free to listen here or there or wherever is best for you. So today we're going to be talking about why I'm essentially happy when bad things happen to my kids. Now, just off the bat, straight away, I'm going to say there are some bad things that happen that are truly bad, truly traumatic, that truly leave a lasting, painful imprint. And I would never be happy if those things happen to my kids. So when I say bad things in this particular session, what I'm referring to is within the norm of what happens in most kids' lives. Okay, most kids experience rejection from peers, fail at a test, don't get into a program that they wanted to get into, and maybe also things that are a little bit tougher and a little bit harder, but are also within what most kids are going to experience, such as disease or death in the family of someone elderly. Losing a pet, maybe going through a really hard time where something bad happened to our house, like a robbery or a fire, or needing to move because of financial downturn or a divorce. These are things that are a little bit traumatic with a capital T, right? They can leave a lasting mark, but they're also very normal in the sense that they are common. And so a lot of kids are going to experience those things. Now, in coaching thousands of parents for the last decade, one of the things I've come to see is that all of us have a guilt story in our head. I would love to hear what yours is. You can let me know in the comments. What is the story that you're walking around with saying, oh my God, I've damaged my children somehow? I think many of us became so sensitized to how psychological situations and hardship and emotional pain can imprint onto children's brains and affect their future, that we have now started to actually, in some cases, even misinterpret or over diagnose the sense that something bad happened to our kids and they'll never forgive us for it, or they'll never overcome it. Right. So many parents tell me my kid's going to need therapy in the future. I'm just saving up now for it. Oh no, I've damaged my kid somehow. And what are the things they're talking about? So it could be things like I didn't breastfeed for long enough. I let them cry it out. I yelled at them when they were little. I did timeouts. I gave punishments. Maybe I was scary with my face. I got really triggered and I scared my children. Right. Things like this that they're saying are going to somehow damage their child in the long run. Or it could be things in their kid's life. Oh, my kid was left out of their peer group. My kid uh, had to move a lot, or didn't get into what they wanted to get into, or was exposed to something that was difficult for them, right? Those are the types of things, the types of stories that I so very often see come through as the stories that parents are clinging onto, like, oh no, this is going to damage my kid somehow. And I think many of us feel that parental guilt, right? That we feel like, oh no, I've done something wrong. I've somehow damaged my child, is warranted, that we should beat ourselves up about it, that it somehow in some weird kind of way makes us a better parent because we're so worried about it. Which, by the way, is probably true, because probably people who aren't very good parents don't worry very much about their parenting. It's the parents who are very conscientious, who are very involved, who are very dedicated, who care, who worry, who think about this type of thing. So it's kind of true that if you're someone who's worried about the damage that you've inflicted on your child, you're already by definition probably a pretty good parent. Okay. But I want to present a completely different and alternative approach to how to think about it when bad things happen to your kid, when your kid suffers somehow, okay, when your kid is in physical pain, when they skim their knee, when they even break their leg, when they're bleeding, when they're crying, when they're sick. Many parents just feel like their heart is going to explode. It's so hard, and we're overwhelmed with feelings of guilt and empathy and compassion and worry. And I want to suggest that we tone all of those emotions way down, and we start to look with a completely fresh set of eyes at our children's struggle. Okay, so let's call it struggle. Okay, let's call it maybe stress. Okay, difficulties that they're facing. Okay, I'm not talking about, massive capital T traumas. I'm talking about regular struggles that most of our kids are going to go through. Okay, I'm going to give you three reasons that I am calm and happy and relaxed and don't feel guilty and don't feel super activated to fix the situation when my child bumps up against these things in life. Okay. I had a few examples of this week. Okay. One of my kids really hurt themselves with a massive kind of gash, like a cut down his back. It wasn't very deep, it wasn't dangerous, but it was painful and it was scary. One of my kids has been working to get into a program that they really wanted to get into and they didn't get in. Okay. One of my kids had a child in school tell on them that they did all sorts of things that they didn't do. They were basically framed, and they felt very hurt by it and very betrayed and very upset. Okay. These are the types of things that happen to my children on a regular basis, right? Week to week basis. And I am not very activated by it. Okay. I'm not concerned. It doesn't worry me. It doesn't upset me. I don't feel big emotions. Okay. I feel pretty cool, calm, and collected. Like, that happened. Why? Well, the first reason is because kids are anti fragile. Okay. My kids are anti-fragile. Your kids are anti-fragile. All people are anti-fragile. If you haven't heard this term, it was coined by Nissim Taleb. And what it means is that there are substances that are fragile, like glass. They break easily under pressure, right? A thin layer of glass, you put a little bit of stress on it, it breaks. There are substances that don't break easily under pressure. They are not fragile, like maybe steel. The same sheet of steel wouldn't break with the same amount of pressure. Okay. But then there are substances that are anti fragile, and these are substances that grow stronger under pressure. That is things like our immune system or like our muscles. Okay. If I want to grow my muscles, the only way to do so is to put pressure on them, is to strain them, is to struggle. It's actually in the struggle that I grow stronger. That is anti fragility. It's the opposite of fragility. It's when stress makes me stronger. We all know that kids who aren't exposed to any germs, who are in an over sterile environment, have a weaker, not stronger immune system. And so anti fragility is exactly that. It's like, no, you need the exposure. The exposure is what allows you to fight this and what allows you to grow stronger. Okay. Now, that means that kids need stressors in order to grow their resilience. And if you are lucky enough to live in a Western democracy where your child, even if you are not rich, you have more than most people in the world could have dreamt of for most of history, like food security and shelter and running water and hygiene. Okay. If they're lucky enough to have all of that, then they're already doing better than most of humanity ever did. And they might not even be coming up against massive struggle. Okay. They might not be living through a war. Okay. Like we've been living in Israel for the last years. They haven't lived through a war. They haven't maybe lived through a hurricane or through some kind of, God forbid, personal trauma, like, desperate poverty or a horrible car crash or all sorts of terrible things that can happen in the world. Maybe they're living a hunky-dory life. I really hope they are. I really hope your kids are living a hunky-dory life where things are pretty good, where the worst thing that can happen to me is someone said some naughty words to me at school, or my sister hit me or something like that, right? Where not very, I was sick, I had the flu, right? Kind of run of the mill, basically vanilla issues that we face in developed societies that are safe and that are prosperous. That's a very kind of low stakes environment where not much awful things happen. And so they actually need some stressors in order to grow. Okay, kids actually are anti-fragile, which doesn't just mean that they don't that stress doesn't kill them. It means that they need some stressors. They need to bump up against and come into friction with things that are tough, with things that are going to toughen them up, with things that are difficult. And so when my kid, who I think is living, overall, apart from living through a war, they're living a very cushy life otherwise, when they come up against rejection or, social discomfort, okay, or physical pain, I'm like, oh, good, good. This is your opportunity to get stronger. Okay, this is your opportunity to get stronger. I see your questions coming in. I love them. Keep them coming in the comments and I'll address them soon. Okay. I just want to get through these important 3 points of why I'm happy when my kids have something bad happen to them. Okay. So they need these stresses to grow. And remember the old truism, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. If it's something that's going to kill them or ruin their lives or crush their spirit, then of course that's not good. That's going to make them weaker. But if it's something that's going to be uncomfortable, right? It's going to be a little bit difficult, maybe even a little bit painful, a little bit abrasive, not their preference. Let's just put it that way. It's not what they most preferred to happen. It wasn't their number one choice. Then in general, coming up against that is going to make you stronger, not weaker. The people who are the most fragile actually in the world, the people who suffer from what we kind of call, the illnesses of prosperity, okay, the most painful illnesses in a prosperous society, such as mental health downturn, right? Depression, anxiety, crippling anxiety, and self-consciousness. And the people who suffer from those kind of illnesses or addictions, right? Or withdrawal from relationships are people who have often not trained their psyche in handling some stress. They haven't handled stress. So what we see is like when kids aren't exposed to any allergens, right? Aren't exposed to any germs, right? To any kind of bacteria or whatever when they're kids, their immune system is really, really weakened. And then when they meet any kind of, unfriendly germ in adulthood, they get really sick. They're much less capable of just handling it, of metabolizing it, of fighting it and moving on. Whereas had they been exposed to that in small, steady, gradual ways throughout their childhood, they would have had the capacity to handle it. Adults who never handled stresses in childhood, who had every path cleared for them, who had every phone call made for them, who were let in, to every circle they wanted to be let into, who had their life given to them on a silver platter, on a silver spoon. And I'm not just talking about financial wealth. I'm also talking about parental involvement, right? The parents who call the teachers, who separate the fight with the kids, who step in and solve every issue for them, who don't tell them about anything that's, a bit scary or a bit difficult to handle, right? They smooth everything over. They make everything seem very kid friendly and very happy and very sugar coated, right? The parents who do all of that for their children are doing it out of love. They think that they're doing their children a service, but in fact, they're not allowing their children to come up against the abrasiveness of life and to sharpen those tools and to develop the immunity, right? To deal with them, right? And so they need those stresses. They're going to make them stronger, not weaker. And so when I see my kid feeling, oh, they were rejected in school, oh, they didn't get into that program, oh, they fell and hurt themselves, I'm like, good, handle it, my child. Handle it now because of step number 2, which is that the stakes are low in childhood. Okay. The stakes are low in childhood because you're very protected, right? You're not accountable for what you do legally or financially or even socially. You're not held to the standard that adults are held to in any regard. And that's good. And that is as it should be. And that means that in childhood, you can make mistakes that you can't make in adulthood because the prices are too high in adulthood. Okay. If you betray your friend in childhood, if you lie, if you steal, if you make a massive mess, if you're disrespectful to authority, if someone rejects you, if you don't get into something, all of those things in childhood are low stakes because kids are really malleable and moldable because they're young, because they have a lot of grace from society and from adults, because they're allowed to try again, because their failure is seen as a learning opportunity and mistakes are seen as inevitable. And so children are afforded time to figure things out. We all know it's just a kid. Okay. He didn't mean it. We see them in the best possible light. We interpret their behavior in the most generous and charitable interpretations available. And so the stakes are really low. I mean, if you are rejected by a program when you're 10, then you still can try again the next year. You're not going to lose all that money for your family. You don't have kids riding on your career and all these different things. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Nothing happens. You just didn't get your preference, right? Those types of things are good to experience in childhood because they prepare you for the inevitable bumps in the road in adulthood, right? You're going to experience rejection, disappointment, failure, setbacks as a human being in adulthood, right? That's going to happen. It's better if you metabolize those and develop the immunity for them in childhood while the stakes are really low and you have the support and the back of a loving parent to be like, it's okay, baby, I'm here for you. Okay, I'm here for you. You got this. Yeah, it's hard. It's painful. It will pass. I've got you. The stakes are really low there. Whereas in adulthood, it could set you back years. It could set you back millions. It could be a complete heartbreak situation. It could send you to jail, right? There's all sorts of things that can happen in adulthood where the stakes become much higher if you don't learn these things earlier on, if you don't build the resilience and the strength earlier on. Okay, the stakes are also low emotionally. Like a child is going to bounce back, right? Like, oh, I took a hit, someone was mean to me, it didn't work the way I wanted it to, but then I get distracted and run off and play and do the next thing. Okay, I move on relatively quickly when I'm a child. I'm adapting and growing physically and emotionally so rapidly and so flexibly that I can bounce back from things, right? When a child scrapes their knee, it hurts. But when an adult falls on their knee, that's like knee surgery and deterioration to hip surgery eventually, right? Like it becomes a lot harder to heal and to move on from pain in adulthood. Okay. So that's why the stakes are so low, and that's why we should be happy when our children face struggle. And the third reason I'm happy and calm when my child faces something bad that happened to them is because if I over empathize, that creates fragility. And this is one of the major, in my opinion, ills and mistakes that gentle parenting has taken us down. I think empathy is important. It's natural. It's human. We all want and need to be validated in our pain. We need the empathy of those who love us. Empathy is basically feeling someone else, right? Like I feel for you. I feel with you. I see that you're in pain and I care. And that's a beautiful emotion. That's a beautiful thing. And it's important. The trouble starts to happen when we over empathize, okay? When we put all of our parenting skill just into showing empathy. Oh, poor baby, it must have hurt so much. And we get very, very stuck there. One of my coaching clients recently came to me with an issue with her 5-year-old and social skills. And, it was just one example, but I have thousands of a parent who said, look, I empathize, I care, I'm there, I hold space for her. I make her feel seen. I make her feel heard. I really, I hold her through her pain. I sit with her in the feelings, right? And I was like, great, that's great. And then what? And then what do you do? And then she drew a blank because what comes next is not clear in gentle parenting. What comes beyond the empathy? Okay. Empathy is step one, but I would say empathy is about 10%. Okay. Like 10% empathy, okay? Like give a little bit of empathy, of course. Like, oh, I'm sorry that happened to you. Yeah, I care, right? You're with them. You have sympathy, you have empathy, you have compassion, you have all of those good soft emotions for someone in pain, as you should. The trouble is that when you over empathize, when you stay stuck there, basically, when you don't move on, you actually make the problem worse and you actually make them more fragile rather than less. Imagine you've gone through something tough in your life. Maybe you got fired. Maybe you got divorced. Maybe you got dumped. Maybe you went through a horrible diagnosis. Okay. You got some horrible news. Anything bad that's happened to you in your life, just imagine that moment. And imagine that your very best friend in the world, or maybe your husband, someone you're very close to, was just stuck with this face on. Mm. Okay. They were just stuck in empathy. Like, it's so hard. This is so unfair. Wow, it's really such a tough situation. Okay. And they just stayed there validating and validating and validating your pain. Okay. The message that we're getting from that is, I'm right to be this upset. I should be this upset. I'm validated in staying in my pain. I'm really poor me. Like, I pity myself. This is such a terrible thing that's happened to me. I can't handle this. It's too much. It's unfair. Eventually, it starts to actually enforce our minimizing, fragilizing, weak self-talk. I'm saying, like, oh my God, if I'm rendering this reaction from the people close to me, then I guess I really am like a basket case, or just a sob story, right? I guess there's nothing I can do. I guess life really happened to me, right? Life really handed me lemons this time. It's so terrible. It's so bad. And if life handed me lemons and poor me and pity me, then I'm a victim. And let me just say this, you can tattoo it to your forehead, you can print it in a big picture. Okay. There is nothing worse for kids than victim mindset. Okay. Nothing worse for children than feeling like a victim and developing victim mindset. Victim mindset is the kiss of death to self trust, self confidence, self esteem, which everybody chases so much, to proactive action taking, to being accountable to my actions and to try to improve my situation, and worst of all, to hope. A victim mindset is hopeless and helpless. Okay, because victim mindset equals helplessness, and helplessness leads to hopelessness. It's despairing. When you feel like, I'm a victim, life was done to me, something bad happened to me, and now it's the worst thing ever. Look, even my mom, who loves me so much, she just has nothing good to say to me. She's just saying, poor you, oh no, oh no. I really got a bad deck of cards. Why should I even play them? Everybody should just help me. Everybody should just hug me. Everybody should just do it for me. I can't do anything. I'm a victim. Look what happened to me. It's terrible. Okay. Friends, that is a fast track to depression and anxiety. You can come by depression and anxiety in other ways too, but this one is a fast track. It takes you straight there. If you feel helpless, that's a very slippery road to despair and to all the illnesses of despair. Okay. And that's why we don't want to over empathize. When something bad happens to your kid, it's like, oh, that sucks. That's not what you wanted. You have a hug, you have a little pity party. But that's like the first, 5 minutes, okay? The first 10%. And then we need to move on to empowering, to coaching, okay? To revitalizing their sense of self-trust of, I can handle hard things. I can handle hard things. I can do hard things. That's what I want my kids to learn from their childhood. How are they going to learn that they can do hard things if they never face hard things because I shield them from them? And if when hard things do happen, I'm like, oh no, you poor thing. It's so terrible. I feel so bad for you. How are they ever going to learn self-reliance, self-trust? Like, no, I'm a capable individual. I have powers. I have strengths. I have skills. I even have experience. This has happened to me before. Not this exact scenario, but something similar. I can learn from the past. I can put into action my learnings from the previous struggles that I've been through. I can cement in my mind a mental model of myself as someone who overcomes. If there's anything you do for your kids, make it be that. Help them to develop a mental model of themselves as an overcomer, not as a victim. The opposite of a victim. A person who says, sure, bad things happen to me, but I overcome them. I bounce back from them. I move on from them. I learn from them. They don't crush me. They don't break me. Ha! I laugh in the face of adversity. You think that was hard? Show me another one. Try me again. Right? And the idea is really to build a child who can face this world, because we all know that the world is really rather sometimes chaotic and sometimes scary and sometimes violent and sometimes abrasive and rude and offensive and shocking, and it rejects us and it can throw a million things our way. Okay, from volatile markets to health crises to financial crises to shocks to our relationships to a million other adversities that humans can face. Honestly, unfortunately, the list is never ending, right? So we need to prepare our child for that path, not clear the path for the child, as the old saying goes. And if I just over empathize with them, I am creating fragility and I'm actually robbing my child of their opportunities to handle it. So next time your child is in physical pain, okay, I want you to empathize. Oh, that really looks like it hurt. But then move on to, okay, I want you to take a deep breath in and say to yourself, I can handle the pain. It's just pain. It's just pain. My body can handle pain. My body miraculously heals pain. I can do it. Okay, look into my eyes. Look into my eyes, baby. Okay, I'm with you. It's pain. It will pass. Breathe through it. Okay, that's the type of coaching on a physical pain level, but also on an emotional pain level. Oh, your friend said that you're so mean. That hurts a little bit. Let's see how we can just let that roll off us. Because people say all sorts of things. People blab at the mouth. My friends have said that to me. Your friends have said that to you. It's okay. The next day they change their tune. We don't need to take it to heart, right? I want you to really think, do you think it's true? Are you mean? Were you mean? Is there something to take from that criticism? If not, then we're just going to let it go because we disagree with it, and that's okay. Right? We need to give them that type of mindset coaching that I teach inside my course, Alchemize. We do that mindset coaching for us as adults to become very strong. And that I teach inside of the studio membership, which is my flagship membership, which teaches how to build a family culture. Your family culture has to be about raising strong individuals who can handle this world. I mean, has to be. Who am I to say what it has to be? But I'm on a mission to help you create a strong family culture that raises kids who can handle whatever it is that life throws at them. And unfortunately, if we just follow the gentle parenting, mantras of empathy solves everything. No, it doesn't. No, it really doesn't. Too much of any good thing is bad for you. Okay. Things can be very good for you. The sun is good for you, and exercise is good for you, and all sorts of things are great for you. But too much of it becomes toxic. Too much sleep, like, oh my God, you're sleeping your life away, right? Too much sun, you get burnt. You've got to do things in the proper quantity. Okay. So now I'm going to answer some of the questions that have come in. Okay. First of all, ST says, my biggest problem is that I react instead of responding and then end up going down to their level. What tips can you give? Okay, so what ST is describing is a knee-jerk reaction. It's our automated reaction, right? It's the automatic getting triggered and just blah, we just bark something out. We just say the things that we heard in our childhood or whatever we happen to be thinking through our head. And we're not using any kind of discernment or slow thinking, prefrontal cortex engagement to properly analyze the situation and respond in a way that is most effective. Okay. So SD, this is one of, I think, the biggest challenges in psychology is creating that pause between stimulus and reaction, okay, so that you can respond. And I have been researching this type of subject for many, many years, both in reading, but also, in experimenting in my own home and trying to learn what it is that allows one to be responsive rather than reactive. And I actually think it's very multifaceted. In other words, a lot of things have to happen in order for us to not be in autopilot. Okay. For example, I think many of us find it very difficult not to be reactive if we're exhausted, if we're sleep deprived, if we are hungry, tired, maybe PMSing, right? All of the physical things that put us on edge, that make us less calm and collected and present, that make our nervous system kind of on high alert, make it much harder. And we know this from things like compulsive eating. People eat a lot more when they're tired, right? Why? Because they're a lot less in control logically from their prefrontal cortex of their decisions, things just firing right from the amygdala, just kind of impulsive behaviors rather than more controlled and productive and caring behaviors. So what I want to recommend is look for the ways that you can create pauses between the stimuli and your response. This is not so easy because in the moment, you're almost a little bit out of control. You're almost not in control of what you're doing. You're getting triggered, and so you're immediately reacting. But it is possible. It takes some practice, okay? But I would say a few things. One is creating an actual physical pause. So, for example, just really like blocking your mouth, just stopping yourself, turning around, doing something physical that distances you from the situation. Okay. Maybe it's, I'm going to remove myself to my room, even though something crazy is happening right now. It's not dangerous. And I just need a moment to collect myself and come out as the persona I'm trying to enact, like that, more in control parent that can be wise, right? So the physical break. Maybe it's about inhibiting factors. So one of the reasons we behave like triggered maniacs, right? Screaming, yelling, whatever, just getting down, like behaving like a 3-year-old to our 3-year-old. If you do that to me, I'm going to do that to you, right? We just sound like a banshee. One of the things that really helps is inhibition. So, for example, when you have friends around, I'm going to bet that you don't do that as much. Or if a camera was rolling, I'm going to bet you wouldn't do that as much. Or if you were in a public place, you wouldn't do it as much because you're inhibited. You care what people think and you're not being so automated. So the more layers we can do to disrupt that sense of just, I'm going to let fly, right? By disrupting, putting a physical pause, okay? Like gagging ourselves. I'm not going to talk for a minute. I'm going to collect myself. Or inhibiting ourselves by, I'm going to stay more in a public environment. I'm going to have friends over, right? Those types of things really, really help us train ourselves in self-control, in discipline, in how we respond to these situations. Okay. The other thing is I actually kind of like a kind of thought experiment of splitting myself. So I have half of my consciousness is just here. I'm just the mom. I'm just in my body, in the situation, present. And the other half of my consciousness is watching. Right, you see this in maybe in Buddhism and in certain mindset and mindfulness teachings, where you have the observer in your brain watching you, right? And one of the keys to becoming more responsive rather than reactive is to strengthen the voice of the observer. So the observer says to me, Avital, you're getting triggered now. Take a deep breath. Avital, it's just a child. It's not a saber-toothed tiger. You're not in danger. Be calm. Calm yourself. Take a break. Wash your face. Talk politely. Remember what you wanted to say. You wanted to just validate and then offer coaching. You didn't want to let fly, right? And it helps to coach me. Esty, let me know if that's the kind of thing that you were looking for and if that's helpful for you. Okay. Anna Carolina, hello, welcome. You say, what about the so-called trauma that stays in them? The body keeps the score at all of the hard moments of the childhood in the long run. Okay, so it's really interesting. This is a very contested concept, okay? There's no very good evidence, as far as I know, for the idea that the body keeps the score. I know there's a lot of alternative medicine approaches that say, oh, you're storing your childhood trauma in your hips or something like that, right? Maybe, but I don't know that that's true. A book that I personally really like, I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about it, but I love Abigail Shrier's book, Bad Therapy, where she has a whole chapter dispelling this idea of the body keeps the score. And I think it starts like this. She says, the body keeps the score is figuratively not true, and it's literally not true, right? It's not true in any regard. And I tend to find that I used to think that the body keeps the score and all these things, affect us, and maybe in our subconscious brain, that's where you might say it does, kind of leave an imprint. But the idea that it's going to, necessarily always manifest itself in aches and pains and future trauma, I think fragilizes us, because I think what's more true, what I see more evidence for, is actually that the body is a healing machine, that we are resilient and capable and overcoming. I think the idea of the body keeps the score really puts us in this very strained, stressful, overly delicate, precious environment. Like, you mustn't experience anything tough. You mustn't experience anything difficult. You mustn't handle anything painful, because then your body will keep the score and you'll be somehow damaged. And it gives us this idea, recently one of my coaching clients said something, I feel like I've broken my child, like he's not whole because of a nasty divorce I went through. And I'm like, wait, what is this? What is this myth that like children come whole and perfect, and then through their experiences they get broken and imprinted with all these bad things, and the body keeps the score, and then they turn into broken adults? When I see the most functional adults I know, the most capable, the most resilient, the most loving and kind and forgiving and flexible and active and proactive and loyal and innovative and capable people I know, they've been through stuff. They've been through tough stuff. It's actually the people who haven't been through any of those things that I think of as very fragile. And, I think of their body keeping a score on things. Okay. So I think it's actually very inverted, this idea. Anna, let me know how this is landing for you. But to me, it's very inverted. I think it's much more like the immune system. Okay. Then it is like, oh, we have this precious piece of glass and it's whole. And then we start to, poke cracks in it. And now it's cracked and broken. I think that's not a good mental model for thinking about humans in that fragile way. I think if you think about muscle tone, yeah, heck yeah, the body keeps the score. You strained, you worked, you lifted, you sweat, you struggled, and now your body is rising to that occasion. You're training your body that you need to be a strong individual. That, I think, is a much more empowering and useful and actually just true model for how humans work. I think those children who are so overprotected and shielded from difficult things in their life are the ones who are much more fragile in adulthood, not the opposite. The people, have any of you read the book by Yeonmi Park? She's a North Korean defector and a social and a human rights activist. She wrote an incredible book. The woman went through the most grueling, horrific experiences known to humanity, okay? Including starvation, including slavery into the sex trade, including terrible, terrible, terrible things for many, 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 many years, okay? If anyone's body is going to keep the score, it's going to be her, right? And she comes out of that experience and she is so quote unquote whole. I don't like those terminologies, whole and broken. I mean, we're all complex individuals, but she is so capable and resilient and strong and knows who she is and knows right from wrong and has a moral compass and has clarity. And all, at least that's how her book presents and that's how her content often presents. And I'm thinking, 1 minute, if the body keeps the score, shouldn't she be a puddle on the floor? Shouldn't she be in aches and pains all over? Shouldn't she be a completely broken person? Right? So, no, often you go through the toughest stuff in life, and those people who go through tough stuff in life are often the strongest, the most, yeah, sure, it could mess you up. Like you could have PTSD, you could have some real pain, you could lose limbs on the way, okay? But you if you don't have any challenges, like what chance do you stand at life? Like really, what chance do you stand? You're going to be a really unimpressive person because you're just going to have zero backbone, zero tone to your character. Family is the School of Love. Love that name. Says, how can I give my children the thirst for healthy challenges? Okay, so the way that you do that is, first of all, by this last step that I said, not over empathizing, okay? Not making empathy the backbone of your entire parenting experience. It's just one component. Yes, you're an empathic, warm, loving parent. That's great. But you're also someone who believes in them. You say things like, I'm so proud how you handled that. You can handle really hard things. That wasn't easy and you did it anyway. Do you remember when you were shaking before you went on stage? You thought you were going to faint, and look at you. You got up there and you did it. Do you remember when you couldn't ride a bike? Do you remember when you fell off the first 2 times you tried, but you got back on and you carried on riding and now you're like this master rider? You build your children stories of overcoming in their head. You look at them and talk to them as strong individuals. Okay? You are a capable person. You don't need me. Much of our modern day parenting is built on an egoistic, almost narcissistic need for our children to need us. Rely on me, need me, okay? Stay small, stay dependent, okay? Every single opportunity you have to allow your children independence, to try it by themselves, to do it themselves, to go by themselves, okay? Give it to them. And build in them a repertoire, a canon, a library in their head of all the things that they can do, that they couldn't do before and they can do now. I couldn't read and now I can read. I couldn't swim and now I can swim. It was hard to make friends and then I made them. It was scary to apply, but I did it, right? It's all these things that show that I'm an overcomer. Okay. It was really painful. I want you to actually backtrack and be like, do you remember when that felt like impossible, or that felt so painful, or you were so angry about something, but then you calmed down from those emotions, you moved forward, you did it. Okay. So that's the first thing, is you want to build a mental model in their own minds of capability, of competence, of strength. Okay. The second thing is you want to give them a repertoire of excellent role models. By the way, inside of inside of the High Fam Studio, my membership, we do projects every season, and we focus on a different project. So one of our projects, for example, is family roots, bringing out the stories from previous generations, from our grandparents. One of the projects is raising feminine girls and masculine boys. And in all of these types of projects, one of the things we're looking for is excellent role models. So this is the second thing I would say to you. You've got to be careful who you glorify. You've got to be careful who you worship. Who are the celebrities? Who are the North Stars? Who are we holding up on a pedestal? I have said this example many times, but when I was just married, Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Eat, Love, Pray, was the book on Oprah's list, on New York Times best-selling list. Julia Roberts was starring in the movie. It was a huge deal. We were holding up this book as gospel, as a Bible, as something so incredible, transformative, meaningful, right? Like, look at this woman. She should be your role model. Now, what was her role modelness? What was she role modeling to us? I got a bit bored in my marriage, so I left my husband. He was a good man. We loved each other, but I left. And then I went on a solo adventure around the world to have sex with other people and to eat a lot of yummy food. And that was the heroic story of the 2010s, right? Or a bit earlier. That was the celeb that we were holding up as like, look, everyone, if you write a book like this, if you do something like this, you'll be heralded as a heroine. Okay. And you've got to be very careful with stories like that, because stories like that are formative. Those are the narratives that we share with our children as kind of our cultural heritage, to say, look, my child, these are the heroes in our culture. The heroes in our culture are people who beat other people down to make money, or who leave perfectly good marriages to go off on adventures, or who choose to do all sorts of body modifications to their body to look a certain way, whatever it might be. I don't know, but I've said this before, and if you haven't heard me say it, then I'll say it again now. If you don't convey those messages to your child and give them the values that you want them to give them, culture will. Someone else will do it. Don't worry. Kim Kardashian will do it for you. Okay. TikTok will do it for you. Someone's going to give them someone to look up to. And if it's not you saying, look up to this person, look up to that person, then they'll get messages elsewhere. So, for example, family is the school of love. One of the things that you could be doing is looking for biographies, movies, stories, people who hold up overcoming and resilience as a role model. Okay. Like my teenage son has just been reading David Goggins' books. Okay. He's not for everyone. He's not everyone's cup of tea, whatever. It was very inspiring to him to hear about his resilience, his grit, his hard work. He was like, oh my God, I need to wake up in the morning and make my bed. I need to do more pull-ups. I need to train harder. I need to be more respectful to authority. All sorts of things that he was getting from this person who I was like, hey, you might want to read this book, right? So look carefully at who the heroes and what the stories that you're upholding are, okay? When people use the word brave, what are they referring to? Is it really people who are being brave? Are we finding true bravery or true grit or real strength? Like, for example, I think I'd have done much better if the heroine of 2006 was someone who fought for her marriage, who stayed and built a strong, stable, beautiful, passionate, desire filled home with the husband that she already had. I think that would have been a much better message for all the young women in my position who had just gotten married. Not that it's brave to leave if, there's no abuse and there's no problem there, but that it's brave to stay. And that it's brave to work hard on that. And that's a better role model to give your child. So we've said mental model in their head, models from the outside that you want to offer to them, and then a lot of opportunity to try. I've already mentioned, if they can be independent, let them be independent. They want to ride their bike there, let them. They want to tie their own shoelace, teach them. Okay. I think Dr. Phil saying this once, and I think he's absolutely right, where he said, never do anything for a child that they can do for themselves. If you want to help someone develop resilience, develop capacity, be a strong individual, the last thing on the earth that you want is to over empathize and then do things for them, because that fragilizes them and weakens them. It comes from a place of love, but it's the opposite of love, because it's bad for them and it hurts them in the end. Okay. Okay, Pinkva, sorry, 23 says, there are so many different obstacles and stresses to kids today than back when we were kids. It's hard to know what to let them deal with or shelter them from. I'm actually really curious what you mean by this. Maybe people in the comments today could tell me how kids today have it worse than we had it. I mean, we is a very broad term. I know we all come from different countries and different cultures and different times, but I don't think my kids have it harder than I did. The only big obstacle and stressor that I can think of that is different today is, social media, screen addictions, everything that comes from social media. But the truth is that when I was a kid, we also had social contagions. We also had, a lot of bad ideas floating about, a lot of stresses. There was divorce, there was war, there was disease, there was financial downturn. And in almost every way that counts, on the whole, in the huge big picture, life has gotten better for most people almost everywhere in the world in terms of opportunity and prosperity, in terms of educational opportunities, and that kind of thing. It may have gotten worse in terms of family stability. That's one thing that I could say has really deteriorated in the last, 30, 40 years, right? A lot less family stability. So we see a lot more single parent households, a lot more blended families, a lot more divorce, a lot more children who are growing up without knowing one of their parents or having like a kind of very inconsistent relationship with their parent. And that is a stressor, and that is difficult for the parent and for the child. But I do have an answer to the second part of your question. Okay. You said it's hard to know what to let them deal with and what to shelter them from. So I want to give you a metaphor to help you with this. Let's go back to our immune system. Okay. Every doctor who's worth their salt today will tell you that children need exposure to allergens. Okay, they need exposure to normal germs when they are young. Right? They should be allowed to play in the sand and to touch other people's toys. And you shouldn't constantly wash everything they have and wash their hands all the time or wash their pacifier even all the time from a certain age, because they need exposure to some healthy germs. Really interesting study out of Israel was that Israel has an almost non-existent rate of peanut allergies. There are almost no peanut allergies in Israel. And in America, there's very high rates of peanut allergies. And they were trying to figure out what was the difference. And the difference was that in Israel, there's this snack called bamba. Shout out to all my Israelis. And this snack is a puffed peanut snack. And it's a very popular first snack for even 6-month-old babies because it's soft and it melts in the mouth and they can eat it easily. And so children in Israel overwhelmingly get exposed to peanuts very early. And it is this early exposure to peanuts that actually saves them from developing allergies later on. It's really amazing research, and it's a wonderful metaphor for many, many, many things. You need to learn to metabolize things that can eventually kill you. They can become an allergen and they can kill you in a low stakes, appropriate, early environment, gradually with the support of your parent, so that you can develop the immunity to those things. Okay. Now, there are bacterias that can kill a baby, right? There are germs that are so harmful, that are so dangerous, that we wouldn't want them to be exposed. Okay. They're rare, but they exist. And in those cases, we would want to shelter them. Okay. So I can't tell you exactly per situation. Okay. But it's almost like, there is really a difference between a capital T trauma and, our life, day-to-day frustrations, difficulties, disappointments, that the difference is that we need to be exposed to the latter, and we would like to avoid exposure to the former. Okay. Now, even if we are exposed to terrible bacteria, we can still fight it. We can still get, world-class medicine and help. And with a little bit of help and with a little bit of strength, we can hopefully overcome it. However, that's the kind of thing where we want to protect our children. So, for example, if my child was in a school where they were getting a little bit teased, a little bit left out here and there was some fights sometimes between kids, I didn't love the teacher's approach to everything, I would say, what, these are germs. These are good germs that we need to be exposed to here and there. It's like, picking up a passy from the floor, it will just make them stronger. Everybody needs some exposure to some social, unrest. It's okay. But if they were getting routinely bullied and singled out, or if the teacher was teaching some kind of, self harm ideology that I strongly disagreed with, I would say, whoa, that's like a dangerous bacteria. I got to get my child out of that. Okay. Now, let's say a divorce. A divorce could be something that a child can metabolize, can move on from. It's not ideal. It's not what we most want, but it happens and then they can handle it. And, the adults give them the support to equip them to develop their immunity to it and to overcome it and to compensate in other ways. And it could be fine. And it could be done in a way that becomes really detrimental, right? That harms their future relationships or their sense of self or their sense of stability and safety in the world or their connection with their parent. And so, how things are done and how things are communicated and supported to the child is going to be very, very different, right? We spent the last couple of years running into bomb shelters. Okay, so I ran into bomb shelters with my 5 children. Do I think this was a big trauma to them? No, no, I think it was a bad thing that happened. And I'm happy it happened in the sense, only in the sense, that it offered them real world experiences with something challenging, with something difficult, with something very, very scary that they learned they can overcome with support, okay, with help, with a lot of luck, or it could have been something that would crush them literally physically. It could have killed us, but it didn't kill us specifically. It killed other people, but it didn't kill us specifically. So then it makes us stronger, right? Something that doesn't kill you makes you stronger in most cases. That is true. And in our modern day world, we think what doesn't kill me makes me weaker. The fact that I spent a year running into bomb shelters, 2 years with my kids, makes me weaker. But no, 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 no. That makes you stronger. That means that you have life experience that has taught you that mental model of resilience in your strength, in your mind. You're capable. You can do hard things. Okay. One of the things that I really want you repeating to your child is you can do hard things. You can handle it. I trust you. You've got this. You will overcome this. You will heal from this. You will figure it out. You can handle it. Those are messages of resilience and strength that our children need to hear from us. All right, we're going to close out here. I want to say thank you so much for being with me. If you've watched till the end, thank you very, very much. I do appreciate it. I think these conversations are really important because I think raising strong kids is one of the missions of our parenting life. Like one of the things that we really do owe them is to allow them to be strong enough to face the world and to succeed in the world. And I would love to hear from you if this is the kind of conversation that you want, that you're interested in, that you need more of. If you have resistance or pushback or feedback, if you do so respectfully, I will address it in the comments below or in a future video. And please make sure that you hit the subscribe button because I know it's annoying. I don't love hitting the subscribe button, but it really does make a big difference to my ability to keep running this channel and to growing and spreading this important message to the world. Same goes for the like button and the notification bell and all the other things that you already know how to do. I would appreciate it very much. And it's a free and easy way to support the work that I do. And if you want to go further with me, you can book private coaching sometimes when that's available. And you can certainly join my program, The Studio, when it opens. That's in May. And in the interim, I will also be running my Alchemize program very soon, which is mindset. So if you want to feel really unvictimized, unoffendable, unshakable, if you want to feel like a strong individual with a strong mindset and then convey that further onto your children, then definitely join me in Alchemize. It is life-changing. I am so happy to be here. Thank you so very much. And I'll see you in the next one. Keep on living that high fam life. Bye, everyone.